This is CPAC, the largest annual gathering of conservatives from across the U.S.
God bless America.
2022 will be the year that millions of everyday citizens stand up to the left-wing fascists.
More than a year after Trump lost the election, and with midterms on the horizon, Republicans are looking for inspiration for the future of their party. And an unlikely country has emerged as the epicenter of a new global conservative movement: Hungary.
Here in America, as well as in my beloved country, Hungary, we embrace the true values of our Western civilization: God, our homeland, and the family, the way we have always done before. Protecting the children is what's at stake in the upcoming Hungarian election in early April, where conservatives are led by one of the true champions of liberty, a man you know well, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán.
Viktor Orbán became prime minister in 2010, and he's ruled the country guided by the belief that Hungary can only be saved from immigration and multiculturalism by restoring its Christian identity.
Európa és Magyarország egy civilizációs küzdelem kellős közepén áll. Európa már most invázió alatt áll.
During the global refugee crisis in 2015, Orbán implemented the harshest anti-refugee measures in the European Union. His government prosecuted asylum seekers from the Middle East and built a border wall to prevent them from entering Hungary. His tough stance on immigration catapulted him into the limelight and made him a conservative hero in the US culture wars.
Of the nearly 200 different countries on the face of the earth, precisely one of them has an elected leader who publicly identifies as a Western-style conservative. His name is Viktor Orbán.
Viktor Orbán has done a tremendous job in so many different ways. Probably, like me, a little bit controversial, but that's okay.
Now, right-wing Americans, many on fellowships backed in part by the Hungarian government, are flocking to Budapest, hoping to export the Orbán model back to the US.
Well, welcome to Budapest.
Stephen Scholl is one such fellow. He's here to study how Orbán's government is presenting itself as a defender of traditional values by restoring Budapest's classical architecture.
What is a more visual depiction of your ideology, of your culture, of your society, than the architecture you see? Why wouldn't I want to be surrounded by beautiful buildings like this that remind me of where I came from, great stories of the past?
Why is there an appeal to the past?
For many people, appealing to the past builds a level of importance. It is reminding people that, you come from a great line of people.
Who are these gentlemen on horseback coming down the street who are clearly dressed like they're not from this time period?
They're obviously reenactors. It's kind of part of that hearkening back to the Hungarian tradition.
What is it about Budapest, about Hungary, that is making it so appealing to US conservatives like yourself?
Hungary is a place where policies can be put into practice. I think there's a lot of feelings in conservative circles that, Trump's talked a lot and then didn't actually do a lot. So I think there's a perception in Orbán that don't just talk about something, but concretely do.
So what are some of those policies that you would want to take from Hungary and bring back to the US?
I think for me, one of the main ones would be the family policy. I think that a functional family is one of the most beautiful things in the world.
For decades, small government has defined the US Republican Party. But Hungary is demonstrating that it's easier to implement conservative policies with the full might of the government, like population decline, which many European countries are facing, including Hungary. The Orbán government has chosen to address the issues by giving straight families financial incentives to, make more Hungarians.
Köszönjük szépen, és akkor kezdődjön is a bemelegítés.
Nora Kirali is a mother who benefits from the family policy. With 5 children of her own, she'll never pay income tax again. She's also running for parliament as a member of Orbán's Fidesz party. What are the issues that are important for you in your campaign?
Hát ugye a családok támogatása, az egyik legfontosabb, a közbiztonság, az, hogy nincsen itt Magyarországon migráció.
We've heard a lot about this family policy. Can you explain what it is exactly?
Kormányzás központjában a családok állnak, Ugye van olyan ország, aki a külföldiek betelepítésével próbálja elérni azt, hogy több gyermek szülessen. Gondolok itt a migrációra. Ugye Magyarországon a magyar kormány nem a migrációval akarja elérni ezt, hanem a magyar családok támogatásával.
In your opinion, what's the problem with increasing the population through policies like migration?
Mert azt szeretnénk, hogy a magyarok megmaradjanak abban az értékrendben, és hát az, hogy más vallású, más nemzetiségű emberek teljesen más kultúrával tömegesen bevándorolnak ide Magyarországra, de hát ugye ez egy olyan dolog, amit nem lehet már visszafordítani.
The far-right ideas that Hungary has become known for are exchanged here at the Scrutin Café, a popular spot for U.S. conservatives and their Hungarian counterparts. Tonight, Scholl is hosting an event with Rod Dreher, another American fellow in Hungary.
So I want to ask you, Rod, what do you think is the biggest lie that is currently going around our society today?
I think the most consequential one is the loss of the gender binary, the idea that gender is fluid and that male can be female, female can be male. This is the tyranny of minorities.
Dreher is a senior editor of the American Conservative magazine and a New York Times best-selling author. His latest book, which slams what he calls the totalitarianism of woke culture in the U.S., has just been published in Hungary.
What is your vision for the future of U.S. society?
What I would like to see is a society that is anti-woke, a society that values freedom of expression, freedom of religion, basically America like I grew up in. If you come over here to Hungary, you'll find that you can get a much more respectful hearing for your ideas here in this conservative country than back in America.
So you're coming here to learn from this kind of, can I call it a new conservatism that's been created by the Orbán government?
The traditional conservative thinking, if tradition goes back to Ronald Reagan, is that the small government is what we want. Well, that is so outdated. Orbán is not like that. He is a conservative, but he's not afraid to use the power of the state to achieve certain goals.
Zoltán Kovács has been Orbán's spokesperson since 2015.
The unrelenting devotion to the national cause is probably the key to understanding Mr. Orbán's policy-making and political decision-making and implementation. It's easy to talk about things, but it's always very difficult actually to decide and implement. If something is decided, to be able to effectuate it, you need time.
But 12 years is quite a long time for one government, for one prime minister.
12 years is a long time, but 20 or 30 years is even more meaningful.
People might say that that's authoritarian for someone to rule a country for that long.
I can tell you that our perspective is very different. We have an experience, we have lessons, we can share these lessons and others can learn from it.
But for Orbán's critics, those lessons involve eroding democracy in order to stay in power. His government has gerrymandered districts, stacked courts, changed electoral laws, and taken control of state media. Although these changes have made it very hard for him to lose, Peter Márki-Zay is galvanizing the opposition.
12 év agymosás után azonban én azt mondom önöknek, most vasárnap valódi esély van arra, hogy Orbán Viktort eltakarítsuk. Hogy ezeket a hazaárulókat leváltsuk Magyarország élén.
Does democracy exist in Hungary right now?
No, we wouldn't call it a democracy at all. You may not call it a dictatorship, but it's definitely at least an authoritarian regime. A regime where Orbán built up an elaborate system in which he can never be defeated, he can never be replaced, he will always rule.
You must be familiar with the fact that there are many U.S. conservatives coming here to learn from Orbán's style of governance. Why do you think that is?
I don't know why that is, but I know that it's dangerous. You should take care of your democracy because fortunately enough you have your checks and balances. If somebody is able to switch them off, you would also slide down. This is what happened to Hungary, and I really hope that your system, the 200-year-old American democracy, which I admire, is strong enough to withstand any such threats.
Not only are U.S. conservatives not heeding Márki-Zay's warnings, they're embracing the most controversial aspects of Orbán's rule. Harvard scholar Gladden Papin is a senior fellow at a government-backed Hungarian university.
What do you want to take from this country and bring back to the U.S.?
American conservatives have some anxiety about using power when they have it, which ultimately I think is their undoing. Orban's a no-bullshit politician who has both the vision to, establish and defend Hungary as a traditional Christian society.
He's a controversial figure in Europe. That's undeniable.
Yes,
he's controversial for certain reasons.
Yes, he's controversial because he rejects the liberalism part of liberal democracy. As an anti-liberal, I think that that's good.
Does being anti-liberal mean doing things like changing the Constitution in your favor?
Yes, obviously. We should pass into the U.S. Constitution anything that is, fundamentally required in order to protect the things that have been taken away by other forms of legislation or by the Supreme Court. And I don't think we're at risk of having a highly intolerant, right-wing or conservative society. We're at risk of, because we already have, a highly intolerant liberal society.
While many conservatives claim to be under attack in America, the Orban model is gaining steam in the U.S. as policies rooted in a traditional definition of faith and family spread across the country.
Governor Ron DeSantis has signed into law what critics call the Don't Say Gay bill. There isn't just the Florida Don't Say Gay bill. Republicans are trying to make 2022 the year of the anti-trans bill.
And it's not just the policies that are changing. Institutions are getting overhauled in the conservative image as well.
The draft of the Supreme Court's opinion shows the court overturning Roe v. Wade in a blistering ruling.
It situates the trajectory of the American right to make us in the image of Hungarian illiberal democracy.
For Americans in Hungary, this year's parliamentary election is the affirmation of Orban's style of governing and validation of their belief that U.S. conservatives have something to learn from Hungary.
The Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orbán, has secured a fourth consecutive landslide election victory.
Kedves barátaim, hatalmas győzelmet arattunk. Mi győzelmünkért jó szívvel gondolunk az amerikai barátainkra, akik velünk voltak és segítettek bennünket az elmúlt hónapokban.
The three of us here, we're all from the U.S. It's a much different country. Do you think there are elements of Orban's style of government in Hungary that could work back in the U.S.?
I'd say that the Child Protection Act in Hungary was definitely an inspiration for DeSantis and other Republican governors.
I think Hungary's migration policy should be pursued by Republican politicians. I think the United States could learn a lot from that in terms of border control policies, in terms of messaging.
What does Viktor Orban's re-election tonight mean for conservatives in the U.S.?
I think it'll continue to heighten American conservative interest in what Fidesz and the Orban government are doing. I'm thrilled. It's good to see countries like Hungary that don't hate themselves and don't want to destroy the essence of civilization.
Shouldn't we be moving forward now to a time where we can be more inclusive of all kinds of people?
Inclusion is basically a bullshit word which is used to exclude, traditional morality, the traditional family, the traditional male-female families. There's no world in which the family and the opposite of the family can really coexist. It's a battle. One or the other has to win.